All right, so we're going to dive into a pretty extraordinary story today. It's all pieced together from this collection of documents that surfaced from a developer named Devin Davis. And trust me, it's a wild ride that mixes quantum computing, AI safety, and one person's incredible fight against a system that locked him out completely.
Everything kicks off with this one line. And no, he's not talking about a house. This is how Devin described being totally, completely, and, irreversibly locked out of a massive cloud computing platform. This is where the whole digital odyssey begins.
So, what exactly happened? Well, on January 5th, 2026, Devin Davis finds his account's been canceled. But this wasn't just like a forgotten password. He was stuck in what he calls a systemic deadlock, basically a digital prison that was impossible to escape from. Okay, this slide just lays out the trap perfectly. It was this crazy recursive failure loop. So, step 1, an identity failure blocks his access. Simple enough, right? To fix it, he's got to update his billing info. But step 2, the billing portal won't let him do it. The only way to fix that is to contact support. But then, step 3, to get support, he needs a valid identity. It's a perfect circle, a digital prison with absolutely no official way out. And this is where it just gets absurd. While the automated support system is over here marking his case as resolved, the reality for him was a total dead end, a 404 error. The system sees a closed ticket, but Devin's still on the outside looking at that front door that's been nailed shut. So what do you do when the system itself is the problem? Most of us would probably just give up. But faced with this impossible situation, Davis made a really radical pivot. He decided that instead of trying to fix the broken system, he was just going to bypass it entirely. And this right here is the crucial point. It's this fundamental shift in thinking. If the front door is nailed shut, you don't just keep banging on it, right? You stop seeing it as a house, and you start seeing it as just a pile of bricks and wood. He decided to just go around the broken authentication and building layers and build his own way in. And this is the tool he built to do it. The Universal Quantum Classical Bridge, or UQCB. You can think of it like his own personal master key. He used this next-generation, post-quantum cryptography, stuff that's so powerful even future quantum computers supposedly can't break it, to create his own secure handshake with the servers. This new door let him just walk right past that broken system that had locked him out in the first place. Which, of course, leads to the really big question, why? Why go through all this trouble? What kind of project is so important that you have to invent your own secure gateway to a quantum computer just because customer support is broken? Well, this is where the story goes from a tech support nightmare to something straight out of science fiction. His project had 3 main goals, and believe me, each one is more ambitious than the last. First, he wanted to create an AI that is physically incapable of ever causing harm. Second, he wanted to use quantum computers to stabilize traversable wormholes. Yeah, you heard that right. And third, a computing system that's completely independent and self-contained, what we call air-gapped, and totally sovereign. So let's start with goal number 1, a truly safe AI. The idea was something called the Q-Slice framework. He wanted to link the AI's most basic functions to a really fragile quantum state. So think of it kind of like a house of cards. If the AI even tried to do something harmful, that fragile state would immediately collapse. It's a process called decoherence, which would physically trigger an automatic off switch. It's AI safety that's literally guaranteed by the laws of physics. And then we have goal number 2, which sounds like total sci-fi, stabilizing a wormhole. Now, the documents suggest he was using actual quantum hardware to test this. The whole idea hinges on something called the quantum Zeno effect. The easiest way to think about it is like the old saying, a watched pot never boils, but for physics. By constantly observing the quantum state of the wormhole, he theorized he could kind of freeze it in place, hold it open long enough to be useful. So did it work? Well, this slide shows what looks like the first piece of evidence. This table measures teleportation fidelity, which is basically how perfectly information can get through the wormhole. Without that Zeno effect, the accuracy was sitting around 67%. But look what happens when it's activated. That fidelity jumps up to over 75%. This is a pretty big hint that the watched pot effect was actually working, making that connection more stable. And here we have even more evidence. See, a key signature of a real traversable wormhole would be that information flows way easier one way than the other. In the baseline test, you can see the flow is pretty much symmetrical, a ratio of about 1. But with the Zeno effect turned on, that ratio jumps to 1.34. That means information was flowing way better from left to right. Another check mark. So all of this,
The deadlock, the custom-built bridge, the AI safety plan, the wormhole experiments. It was all building up to one single moment. A moment that the documents call the phase transition, when this entire massive system would finally go live.
This is a dashboard that supposedly shows the system's live metrics right at its peak. Now, we don't know exactly what all these Greek letters mean, but the documents hint that lambda is a measure of system stability, phi has to do with the wormhole state, and gamma measures quantum errors. But just look at that status column: optimal, locked, minimal decoherence. I mean, every single metric was green. The documents actually describe this state as ultra-coherence.
And then, this is the final message that appears in the terminal. Phase transition complete. The system isn't just running anymore. It's metabolizing entropy. It's basically a living system running all by itself on a local server, completely self-sustaining. It seems like the project actually achieved its impossible goal.
But the story doesn't end there, because buried deep within these same documents is a section that completely reframes everything we've just looked at.
And this quote, it comes from Devin Davis himself. He states, in his own words, that this entire interface, all that data we just saw, it could all be interpreted as nothing more than a fake, a simulation, a conceptual mock-up.
He even gives us the correct, defensible interpretation. It's not a living, sovereign AI that's stabilizing a wormhole. No, it's a locally hosted research dashboard, just a tool for visualizing data. And that is a really jarring, stark contrast to the epic story that's laid out in the rest of the files.
So, what is this? What have we been looking at? Is it the log of a history-making breakthrough in physics and AI? Is it an incredibly advanced, technically grounded simulation? Or is it just a story, a really good one, told through code and data? The documents honestly present evidence for all three, and it leaves us with this final, really provocative question. At what point does a simulation become so accurate that it's basically indistinguishable from the real thing? What happens when the code becomes reality?